Safety management systems, I'll get going in a minute. And then health and safety policies. The safety policy is what we're coming on to do in a while. So we have a little quote there: advice is what we ask for when we already know the answer but wish we didn't. Right, here we go. It's part of element 2, management systems and policies. Does anybody recognise HSG 65? Anyone ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few of you have. Okay, HSG 65 has been around for a very long time. It's changed over the years. It is actually, from the Health and Safety Executive, it's the Health and Safety Guidance Note. Yeah, HSG 65 is a management system, a health and safety management system, but it is just a guidance note. This is not something you're going to get audited on and get a certificate to put on your wall, say you worked at HSG 65. Because like all guidance notes from the Health and Safety Executive, they're just there to help the employer. And in this case, it's a safety management system, so it's there to help the employer manage health and safety. Now, this is based on plan, do, check and act. So plan what you're going to do it, check it, and if it's something wrong, act upon it, put it right. So plan, do, check and act is the basic four principles, if you like, of virtually all safety management policies and environment management. Plan, do, check and act is such a widely used way of putting together any sort of management system. So when we're sort of planning what we're going to do, you know, like we've got the health and safety policy there next to the plan up in the top left hand. So you set your policy, you set your safety policy, what it is you want to achieve. You've got a plan to how you're going to implement your policy. So you plan for safety. Now, risk profiling is what I'm going to do with you next week. I think, if I remember right, it's on the 30th, I believe. But yeah, so next week we do risk assessment. So risk profiling, when you're doing your health and safety, so like you've got to keep an eye on what your risks are. I mean, obviously you can put something in place to control them. So you've got your risk profiling, organising for safety. Yeah, it's all part of the doing, making sure people know what it is they're supposed to do, what their responsibilities are. So we organise for safety, people know what their responsibilities are, and hopefully in cooperation together, our companies can succeed through good safety, i.e., as you might have done last week, not having, maybe not having accidents, not having time, wasting time, I say wasting time, but not having to do accident investigations and things that delay what our companies should be doing. So good safety means we save a lot of time and hopefully money as well, not being put through the courts, for instance, for something that's gone wrong, you know. So organise for safety. Any plan, if you plan your work, work your plan. That's one of the old phrases from marketing back in the 1980s in the company I worked for. So it's just about, you know, like implementing your plan. So we plan what we're going to do. We make sure people know what their responsibilities are. We've identified all our risks and what we can do about them. Then we can put that plan in place. And then after that, it's the checking and the acting. Now the checking, measuring performance. It's all part of what we're going to be doing on this course. NG1 is based around this plan, do, check and act. Measuring performance, that's looking at how well we're doing. You know, like we're looking at sort of like what are the positives, what are the negatives, you know, like are we keeping within the law? Are we preventing accidents? You know, are we abiding by, you know, sort of good guidance and the good practice from the approved code of practice, etc., etc. So measuring performance, and for that there's active monitoring and reactive monitoring. The reactive is looking at what's gone wrong but making sure we've learned from it. The active monitoring is what we do to prevent people getting hurt. Just making sure when things do go wrong, they're investigated, regardless of whether someone gets hurt or not. So if something occurs and someone doesn't get hurt, we tend to call that a near miss. If something occurs or there's an incident and someone gets hurt, we tend to call that an accident. You know, so but in either way, it's part of this investigation. It's just making sure we've learned from what's gone wrong. You know, we investigate, we find out why things happen, and we see if there's something we can do to stop them from happening again. because today's sort of like trip over a cable might end up in tomorrow's fatality, depending where that cable is. So, it's part of this checking what we're doing in our workplace, checking our performance, checking on what's gone wrong and making sure we've learned from it, we've put things in place. And that brings us round to part of the acting there, so learning the lessons. Making sure we put stuff in place, let's make sure it's working. And so we review our performance, maybe on an annual basis. It's all part of the act. So you've got plan, do, check and act, and all these little bits that go with it. That is a guidance note. We're not going to get into trouble if we don't follow it, because it's not a legally enforceable thing. It's just a guide to help employers. This is ISO 45001. It replaced, before that, we had a thing called OSAS 18001. Now, at the moment, some companies might still be accredited with OSAS. You've got these accredited management systems. You've got 14001 is the accredited management system for the environment. You've got 9000 series, or 9001 is accredited management system for quality. So if you're a manufacturer, you might work it doesn't about manufacturing, it applies to other things as well, but it's quality management. That's 9000. When ISO brought out the 45001, say March 18, and any company that worked to the old system, which is actually called OSAS 18001, you have 3 years to upgrade from one system to the new system. Now, say March 18, so I'm assuming that will mean March 2021, so March next year. Some companies would be using this system already. But this is it's not an absolute, you must do things this way. It's giving you like a framework of how to manage health and safety. And of course, different companies have different types of works, different types of risks. So there's no one safety management system fits all. It's adapting this to suit your own company. And it says about, context of the organisation. Now, just to say, with this system, you do get a certificate. And so there's benefits, there's reasons for why we might have safety management systems, and I'll come back to that in a minute. Now, this standard, so it came out March 18, and something appeared in it, which we all looked at and went, what's that then? Organisational context. This about a new concept. Well, it is really a new concept. It's something we hadn't really, in safety terms, never spoken about before. But what it is, you're setting the scene for your company. You're looking at you're looking at the internal features of the company, like the management structure. You're looking at the objectives of the business, available resources. Because in safety, we might find there's a lot of things we need to do to put things right, but we haven't got the budget to do it all in once. So we put a plan in place for how we can improve. But the context of organisation, every organisation is different. So this is where in our safety management system here, our 45001. That's the start of it. We put a bit in there about what our company's all about. The leadership side of it. Now, this whole thing about safety management is being led from the top. I think there was a bit in the old days. There was a bit of, like companies. Oh, I've got a safety person to do that. I've got a safety team to do that. Well, actually, safety is everybody's responsibility. Because by now you probably know. Safety is everyone's responsibility. So the top of the company, whatever the titles are, managing director, chief executive, etc., they've got to be at the heart of all this. Leadership is absolutely essential. And so they can't just say, this is someone else's responsibility. Because at the end of the day, if things go wrong, it's usually the top management. But if there is going to be a court case, it's usually top management that end up in court representing the company, or even as individuals, as under the Health and Safety Work Act, as you did last week. Like individuals can be prosecuted. Of any employee can be prosecuted. So there you go. So leadership. So you've got the organisational context, you've got the leadership. Being in charge, staying on top of all this. And then we go back to where we were: plan, do, check, and act. The planning, the support. So if we've got a plan in place, we've got to make sure we've put a support there, i.e. resources, people resources, enough people to implement our plan, making sure we've got enough financial resources, the right equipment. So giving support to the plan sort of thing to make sure we can actually operate this plan. So we can actually do all the things we say we're going to do. And then again, it's checking and acting, the performance evaluation. HSG 65, we said measuring performance. Well, here it says performance evaluation. Same thing. We're evaluating how well we're performing. And then we're looking to improve. You know, like a lot of these management systems are based on continual improvement, whether it's environment, whether it's quality, whether it's, you know, health and safety, you know, continual improvement. Sometimes you can get to a point where those improvements might be quite small because you might be really good as a company. But it's just the overall aim was to always to continually improve, you know, and with the overall thing of having no accidents, no injuries, no one being made ill by work. You know, so safety management systems, whether it's the HSG 65, whether it's ISO 45001, or whether it's, you know, like one your own company might have designed, they'll all be based around plan, do, check, and act. So, just out of interest, what's the benefit of having a safety management system? Just have a little think about that. The benefit of a safety management system. Why might you want to have a safety management system? Just take, where are we? Okay, like take 2 minutes. We've just come to the top of the hour on my clock. 2 minutes. Think of all the reasons why you might want to have a safety management system. All these management systems, you know, like that's one part of the subject. That says about, you know, like making sure we got a policy, set the policy. So the rest of this session is literally about the health and safety policy. Now you might have, you know, from last week when you would have done, I think, was it last week, the Health and Safety Work Act? I know you've done Health and Safety Work Act or statute law with Jackie, which may well have been mentioned, but just briefly. Health and Safety Work Act, Section 2. Is that one about the employer's duties to employees? And things like, you know, safe place of work, you know, like ensuring, you know, welfare, health, safety, welfare, so far as is reasonably practicable, and sort of like safe plant equipment, etc., etc. Well, part of that Section 2, besides the consultation with staff, which is another subject for another day, was this having a health and safety policy. So the basic thing is about the policy is, you know, if we've got 5 or more employees, we have to have this safety policy recorded. So if you've got less than 5, and that by 5, that includes managing director, any other directors, etc., anyone paid by the company. So you've got the safety policy, you know, you've got to have it recorded. And in this day and age, most companies will have it on their intranet systems if they've got an intranet. We actually have ours on our internet. We don't have an intranet as such, because being a small company as we are, there's no point. But we do have our policy up on the wall there for people to see. And often we get asked to send over a copy of it when we're getting new people coming to us with contracts with new clients. You know, they want to see what we've got in place. So the safety policy is made up of certain parts. The written statement of intent. We will look at all these parts individually in a moment. We've got to have sort of like the organisational responsibilities. Who's responsible for what regarding health and safety? And the third part is all about the arrangements we have in place for dealing with health and safety. And I will clarify on all of these as we move through the subject. The policy's got to be kept up to date, so it's got to be revised. Most companies, normally revise a policy, a bit like risk assessment, revise them once a year, just to make sure they're up to date. Now, every year we might make a little change to our policy, particularly regarding, you know, what our organisation's aims and targets are. I'll come back to that as well. So we revise the policy, keeping it up to date, in other words. By law, the policy must be brought to the attention of all employees. So this is all part of Health and Safety Work Act. The policy must be brought to the attention. Now, some companies will just, and I know this from experience, some companies will just show you the statement of intent and say, right, read this, then sign to say you've read it and understood it. That's not enough. That is only the statement of intent. The intent to abide with health and safety is just one part of the policy. You know, like so the people should be aware, all employees should be aware of their company's health and safety policy, the organisational responsibilities and the arrangements in place. All right, the 5 or more people I've already mentioned. Okay, so just a little bit more detail in this. So we have our legal requirements, just mention it. It's a way of, the safety policy is a really good document to have. It's a useful source of information for people. Employees should be encouraged, if they've got a safety issue or a question, then really, rather than go to the safety person, the employees should know that they can actually go to the health and safety policy and see if they get an answer from that. Whether it's a physical document being printed out, or whether it's like online, or in the company's intranet system, etc. People should be encouraged to use the policy. It's not just there because the company must have it because the law says so. Having paperwork is one thing, it's actually making use of it. So it's a way of communicating all about health and safety. So if people are encouraged to use it, they should be able to, look, if you've got an issue, look at the policy, see what it says. It may give them an answer. And if they can't get an answer, then go to the safety person if necessary. So the policy, as I say, it clarifies what people's health and safety responsibilities are. And that's, throughout every layer of management, every layer within the company, I say a layer of management, every layer of employee. We were talking to board of directors, that end of it, to the shop floor workers, if you like, frontline workers, all the different levels within a company. Clarifies specific responsibilities. It's a great source of information if it's used properly and if it's designed properly. So whoever puts this together will know about health and safety. And again, like a safety management system, if we're following what's in the policy, because it's all safety related, if we know what's in the policy and we follow that, then hopefully, again, like any good safety management, reducing accidents, hopefully preventing accidents, and all those associated costs of when things go wrong. It also shows a commitment. If we encourage people to use the policy and take note of it, it's shown a commitment from top management to health and safety, basically, a commitment to their staff to keep them safe, to prevent accidents and ill health. As a consultant in safety, going around quite a few companies over the years, you do see a wide range of policies. Some are absolutely great, others are absolute rubbish. But yeah, practical, some of them just right in their policy have just repeated what the law says. That's no good. The policy's got to be specific to any one organisation. Because not every organisation's the same, we're all slightly different, although we all come under the same regulations, the same legal side of things. But the policy should be specific to the company. It's not about just repeating law. It's about what are your systems in place for dealing with this particular part of the safety subject. And again, I'll clarify on the various parts of the policy. Okay, so the statement of intent, signed and dated, preferably by the top board, whoever that is, says managing director, chief executive, general. If you work for a global company, and in this country, you're just a subsidiary of the actual main office might be in America or Australia or Africa or wherever. So if you're just like a satellite office, then it may be the top person in this country, whatever their title is, will sign and date the policy. But the statement of intent, it's showing the company's intent of what we're going to do with health and safety, how we're going to go about it. So you sign it by the top person because that shows it's a serious thing. It's not just a junior management or some supervisor who decided to do this. If the top person signs it, it shows the importance of it. It shows that commitment. In statements, and I'll give you a briefing in a moment on statements, we give a commitment to the health and safety principles, making sure we're committed to making sure the resources are available to keep people safe. And so in the statement of intent, we talk about the company will set goals and objectives. But I'm just going to read part of our statement of intent. So what I've done, I've just been downstairs during the last break. I've blatantly stolen my own health and safety policy off the notice board, which is actually there for delegates. So Cambridge Safety, there's only 5 of us plus one associate, And so our policy only stretches to 22 pages. And the first thing it has, like any good safety policy I have under the Health and Safety Work Act, the statement of intent. So we call it the Health and Safety Policy Statement. Now, I'll just briefly read it out here. It says, the partners of Cambridge Safety regard people as our most important asset and as such accept responsibility for ensuring, as far as possible, the health, safety and welfare of employees and others who may be affected by our activities. We recognise that the maintenance of a safe place of work and safe working environment is critical to the continued success of the partnership, and accordingly we view our responsibilities for health and safety equally with our other organisational responsibilities. And it goes on, blah, 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 and it says we'll include the provision of a safe working environment, safe entry and exit to all workplaces, adequate welfare facilities, safe systems of work, safe plant and equipment, and adequate training, information, instruction, and supervision for employees whilst at work. And it's over continue to the committed development, the continuing improvement of health and safety. We'll have all this going. But yeah, so that is a typical health and safety policy statement. It shouldn't be too long. Getting it on one side of A4 is quite nice because you can display that in reception, display that on notice boards. You know, sometimes these statements can go on a bit too long, but it's just a way of showing our commitment to health and safety. Now, the second bit, the organisational part of this, excuse me, it's responsibilities set. And quite a few of those things, when everyone's got a responsibility for health and safety, everyone should be cooperating with each other and, you know, following the rules. So there's going to be some similarities between those different areas. The third part, so the three parts of the policy: the statement of intent, the organisational responsibilities, and then the arrangements. The arrangements in place, the practical systems, practical procedures, you know, for all your different parts of health and safety. It's, you know, you've got your planning for controlling hazards, what we're going to do. Now then, I just showed you a red book there. It's an old hospital trust health and safety policy. Their arrangements, what I've done is just taken out the index, and it's a hospital trust, it's quite a big place. And I'll just read out some of these things. This is so in their safety policy, under the arrangements in place for controlling hazards and preventing risk, whatever, preventing people getting hurt, it's in alphabetical order. Now, this is what we do for all our clients. We put these things together for a lot of companies. It starts off talking about accident and incident reporting. And it was starting with a definition. What is the definition of an accident? You know, how do we go about reporting within this company? It then goes on for accident investigation, chemicals. Some companies just put cost, but chemicals, contractors, so how we deal with contractors. Some of these are very medical related, so I'll skip those. Display screen equipment. Now that's an interesting one. I'm not going to go into detail on this, but display screen equipment. In the workplace, we've probably all got the right setup, the right equipment, the right chair, the right desks. That's something we'll talk about later on this course. PPE, personal protective equipment. It's got about pregnancy risk assessment, young person's risk assessment, RIDDOR reporting, so RIDDOR reporting of injuries, disease and dangerous occurrences regulations. You know, don't cover most of the ones I mentioned could be virtually applicable to the. So that's what the three parts are then: the intent, what we set out to do, the organisational responsibilities, and finally the arrangements, what we've got in place for dealing with all this, for dealing with health and safety. So it might be worth, you know, it depends on the situation. Obviously with lockdown, it's all things have changed somewhat, but knowing what your company's policy is, every employee should know their health and safety policy. They should know at least how to access it. Right. Why might you need to revise a policy? Why might it need to be updated, reviewed, etc.?
Things might change.
Things might change. What sort of things might change?
Like laws, legislation.
Yeah, change of law, change of legislation.
The business might expand into other things.
Yeah, yeah. Business might expand. You might change what you're actually doing as a business. You might take on new things, new products, maybe new ways of working. Yeah, thank you. I'm leaving this random to anybody. I haven't actually picked on. Give me an answer. You know, I'll leave it to you. Who might tell you to revise your policy?
HSE?
Yeah, yeah. You might have had enforcement agencies in. You might have had. They might, you know, sometimes when they come in, whatever reason they come into a company, one way they ascertain the culture of that company, the safety culture, is by looking at the paperwork. And the main things they're going to look at is the safety policy and risk assessments, particularly a general risk assessment. So yeah, we're going to look at the same. They might look at it and go, "This is garbage." They may not use that language, but yeah, so, you know, this is not up to standards. This is no good. You need to update it. Particularly if they look at the statement of intent and see it's like 5 years old. which is why on an annual basis it's good to review that statement of intent and get the top board to sign it, you know, to make sure they actually sort of like so it shows that it's been looked at. It shows that it's been looked at and kept up to date. Yep. So it could be enforcement authority action. It could be just time related. You know, we might review it because it's about time we did. It's been a year, and you know, 2 years at the most between reviews. Ideally, annually. It's not an absolute law, but the law does say you've got to keep it up revised, keep it up to date. So annually is a good way of doing that. Quick review here. What are the 4 main parts of HSG 65?
Policy.
I'm reluctant to pick on one person there, but go on.
Was that act?
That's one of them. Go on, Philip.
Do.
Oh, plan and do, yeah.
Check.
Check. There you go. Plan, do, check, act. Okay. Righty-ho. There's another question coming up. Now, I'm not sure what you're seeing, because obviously I'm seeing you at the moment, and the questions are hidden. So the second question is, if your company wants an accredited safety management system, which should they choose? An accredited safety management system.
So the ISO 45001.
Good man, good man. ISO 45001, that is an accredited system where you get a certificate saying, yes, you abide by this, whereas HSG 65, the other one, you don't get such a thing. What's the legal requirement to have a health and safety policy? What bit of law are we talking about?
Health and Safety at Work Act.
Health and Safety at Work Act. Thank you very much. Absolutely. And you can expand on it. It's section 2. It's got to be written. If you've got 5 or more people, you've got to bring it to the attention of employees. It's got to be revised and kept up to date. It consists of the 3 certain parts. Now, in talking about the certain parts, what were those 3 parts of the health and safety policy? Testing or short-term memory?
Statement of intent.
Statement of intent?
Arrangements, management arrangements.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, two things. Arrangements. The arrangements we have in place for dealing with health and safety. That's one. That's the third bit, and there's one in the middle there. So you got the statement of intent. Then there's one with
Organisation.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So the statement of intent. That's what we intend to do. You know, regarding health and safety. You got the organisational responsibilities. Who's responsible for what, and then the arrangements in place for dealing with health and safety. There you go. The three parts of the policy. Okay. So in regards to that, which part contains employee responsibilities?
The organisation.
Yes, yeah. I'm not really trying to catch you out at all. Okay, which parts? So the organisation arrangements about employees' responsibilities. Which bits got about the commitment to health and safety?
Statement of intent.
Yay, the statement of intent. Thank you. And finally, from that review, which parts? Which says which part will contain the company procedure or procedures, I suppose, for carrying out risk assessment.
The arrangements.
The arrangements, yeah. It's all part of that big index I read out to you. It's all part of that. So in there, it's all about all your different types of assessment. So there you go. Right. Now, just a quick bit to end up on here. Making the policy work. We set our goals, we set our aims, we set, set the objectives, what it is we want to achieve. Now, in objectives and targets, the objective is the overall, this is what we aim to achieve. The target is more specific. And I'll come back, it says SMART there, some of you may well be aware of SMART. There's lots of versions, or quite a few versions of it. I'll come back to it. And the fact with our, make the policy, but benchmarking, like if we're quite a new company or a company that's not really been up on safety before, we can use, we do our checks on safety, see how we're doing, and we can use that as a benchmark for the future. So this year we've done a review of our company, we've seen where we are. Next year we'll have another look and see if we've improved. Okay. Benchmarking can also be you might have a friend or use another company, a client, or a company that you work for. You might look at what they've got and think, wow, that's brilliant. So we can use that as a benchmark. Can we match what they've got? Can we match what they're doing? So benchmarking, generally, you check where you are at the moment. I mean, you give it a while, then check again to see have you improved. So the original reading's the benchmark. Like in occupational health, you start a company that's got noisy factories and that, noisy equipment. They're normally nowadays, they give you audiometric testing or a hearing test when you start at the company. And that is in effect a benchmark, because every now and again, they're going to do more hearing tests on you to see if your hearing's got worse. I say it won't get better, but just to check if your hearing's got worse. Hopefully it hasn't. That means things are working well. If it does get worse, they can look at what they did on the first reading, look at what they did on the second reading 6 months down the line, and find, oh, actually, the hearing's deteriorating. It might show that the safety measures for noise-related subjects aren't working. Okay, so benchmarking, we use it in lots of things. Right, now SMART. When we're setting a target, a specific target, and I'll give you an example of this, reducing cuts to the hand by 10% over the next 12 months. So it's specific. We're talking cuts to the hand, and it's going to be reduced by 10% over the next 12 months. It's measurable. You've got first aiders, whatever it were, we can keep an eye on. So all these things should be reported by our staff. That's why we encourage people to report, so we can keep an eye on these sort of things. It's measurable. We can check in 12 months, so we reduced it by 10%. It's a reasonable target, 10%, as opposed to saying, 80% or 90%. At least a reasonable, achievable target. Now, this version of SMART, you may know others. This particular version is on the NEBOSH syllabus for this course. So we've got specific, measurable, achievable, reasonable, and then time-bound, either time. Now, this is from a company which goes on a construction company. It's an overall target. It's not quite as specific as using SMART, but these are example targets. But it'd be nice to get down to no injuries, no ill health, no damage, no environmental incidents, blah blah blah, no read or reportables. Excuse me. No breach of security. So it's very specific to construction there. But they are targets, just not quite as specific. As using SMART is a nice way of setting targets. It's just to finish up with, it says, what might you need to consider when the company is setting health and safety objectives and targets? So, it's quite a wide open question. It is actually, you actually got an answer to this in your books as well. So I'm not saying scrabble to your books and have a look. but yeah, what might you say? Have a little think. What might you take into account when deciding what targets should we set for next year? What aims and targets should we set, or objectives and targets?
Needs to be relatable to the business you're carrying out. So there's no point having a target that's more related to construction if that's not the business that you're in.
Yeah, so for a start, we're going to make sure we're going to be suitable to our own business. Yeah, I like that. Relate to your own business.
You need to have a look at what you need to build on from last year. You said next year, so
yes.
What you need to improve on.
Yeah, so look back at all the data. Look at the last year. See what things have gone wrong, because that then shows you where we need to improve. Yeah, that's great. So look at all the other stuff that's gone on, what's been happening. So yeah, take that. Anything else?
With other statistics, national statistics.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen the national statistics. We know the biggest killer is from accidents is falls from heights. As someone once said, it's not the falling that's the problem; it's when you meet the ground. but yeah, falls from heights. So you might look at that and think in our own company, well, we actually, especially if you're working in, say, construction industry or window cleaners or what have you. So yeah, you could do that. Look at national stats, see where trends are, trends and patterns. Need these management systems inside out. It's the main components, the main bits we've shown you on the slides. The legal requirements for the policy, we just mentioned, Section 2 HASWA, the different sections, why they're in place, what is their purpose, what's likely to be in them, why review a policy, the importance of objectives and targets. We make sure if if you set a target, you set an objective, it's more likely to get done. It's more likely to get completed. Okay, and then it says there, now complete the E2 end development review. We can do the E1 one as well. You've finished E1 and 2 now, so those two